Hey, this is David Jensen with Madico. I'm here with Chris at Auto Film Guys. We're going to be doing a real-time installation of our new Madico ClearPlex Contour product with our advanced fast shrink technology. So let's get right into it. This is going to be a full install. So we're really going to just focus on showing you the improved and advanced fast shrink technology we have with this film. You need some film? So, Chris and I have already cleaned the windshield. Right now, we're doing a rough cut to cut the film to shape. So what Chris and I are going to do to get this ready to start heat shrinking is we're going to be doing an initial rough cut. The rough cut is going to leave an overlap on the top and bottom. And it's going to be cut tight to the A-pillar.
Can you reach that side?
You want to do the A-pillar cut here?
Just gonna say, let me finish this. Let's slide down a little bit. All right, I'm good.
Okay. And then can you do the A-pillar cut over here?
Yeah.
So, depending on the type of vehicle you install on, some are easier than others when it comes to cutting. This specific BMW, you can't remove the side gaskets around the windshield to expose that edge. If you have cars that have what's called floating glass, means glass has the actual edge exposed, it makes the cutting process a lot easier because you essentially use the edge of the glass and you can trim your blade along the edge, which means you don't necessarily have to use your own knife skill to cut that, especially the A-pillar in the top straight. Depending on your comfortability level with cutting on glass, sometimes installers will prefer using like a wax or a grease pen to trace that edge, take it to a billboard to cut. So that's completely dependent on the installer's skill level and comfortability with cutting on the glass. One thing we always want to point out is, since you're cutting on glass, make sure you're using a stainless steel knife and not a carbon blade. It's pretty easy to tell the difference between them because carbon blades will be black in appearance while stainless steel will be silver. All right, so what Chris and I are going to do now is we're going to do a horizontal tack. We're doing a wet shrink. And like most window films, this can shrink in one direction or on the manufacturer's edge. All right, so one important thing to note if you leave this overlap is you don't want that film to bump up against gaskets or wipers or anything, because that'll cause some stress and it won't allow the fingers to move where they want to move. Okay, so when you do your H-tack, it's usually going to be about 2/3 of the way up the windshield. And then push your fingers to the top and bottom. Depending on the difficulty of the windshield and how large your fingers are initially, You can leave your side fingers on the sides, shrink the top and bottom, and then move your side fingers to the top or bottom once you've gotten those initial fingers down. You'll do that when the fingers are large because you're essentially pre-shrinking it and then making it so you're not creating a situation where you have to deal with large fingers that might cause you difficulty, increase the time of the installation. So what you're looking for right now is, if you cut the windshield in half, you want your fingers to be even from the passenger side and the driver's side. So if you see that your driver's side or passenger side have a larger number of fingers, or fingers that are either larger in size or larger in quantity, you know that you didn't orient the film correctly, or maybe you didn't move the stress evenly from right side to left side. So as you go across the top, you see we have 2 fingers and then 1 in the middle. Then if you split this one, that becomes 2. So 1, 2, 3, and then 1 in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 1 in the middle. So that shows that we've evenly distributed the stress. For heat, we're going to be using a heat setting at 580 Celsius. All right, so let's get into the shrink now. So this is going to be a traditional pocket shrink. So we're going to be heating the edge and working in a quadrant. So Chris is starting in the bottom passenger's quadrant. I'm starting in the upper driver's. And for time purposes, what time is it on your watch right now, Chris?
It is 9:52.
All right, so that's 9:50.
Excuse me, 9:47.
9:47. All right, so let's see what the time is once we're finished with this install. So with this specific video, we're trying to make this as real world as possible. That's why we're not narrating as much as we normally would. But I will be going through and making some observations that I want to point out. So some of the things that you're going to be seeing with this windshield protection film contour product is right off the bat, you should see that the fingers are smaller than what you might experience with our original traditional ClearPlex product. So what that means is you're going to start off from an easier start point. You don't have as much stress that you have to get to conform. Secondly, what you're going to notice is you're going to notice that the film reacts just much faster than our traditional ClearPlex to heat. And what that means is you're not taking that film, or you don't need to push that film as close to its burn point as you might have needed to push it with our traditional ClearPlex. The reason why that's in my opinion, one of the probably biggest features and benefits that this provides is that it makes onboarding new dealers much easier. The way that this film reacts compared to traditional automotive window film is much more similar than our traditional ClearPlex product. So what that means is, as a distributor or as a shop owner, you're going to have a lot easier time, a lot higher success rate, and follow-on training required getting new installers proficient in this product. So you're going to be able to get, if you have a shop with multiple different window tinters, you're going to be able to get all of them, regardless of maybe their proficiency with automotive window tint, able to install this product be able to be proficient in the installation without requiring significant hands-on training. All right, so what time are we at right now, Chris?
9:50.
So we're at 9:50 right now. We started the heat shrink, I think, what did we say?
9:47.
9:47. Okay. What would you rate this vehicle, just 1 to 10?
I would rate it a 5.
5. Yeah, so like average difficulty?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was the key aspect of the video we wanted to focus on, and trying to make it as real world as possible. We wanted to limit the amount of explanation we were doing to really very clearly show the improved fast shrink technology that we have with the ClearPlex Contour product. What you should see is that, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm going to let Chris finish up the trimming while I walk through, the new features and benefits of this film. As I mentioned before, right off the bat, when you lay the film down, you're going to notice that the finger size is going to be smaller. So if you had laid our traditional ClearPlex on this BMW 7 Series, for example, you would have had more fingers and larger fingers. Secondly, the way that we explain it is the burn points of both products are the same, but the reaction point is different. So with our traditional ClearPlex, if your burn point is here, you might have needed to push the film closer to that burn point to get it to react, to start conforming to the windshield. With Contour, that reaction happens sooner, so not only are you working faster, but you have a lot more room for error. And that's the aspect of the film that allows you as a distributor or as a dealer to onboard new installers much faster and more efficiently, requiring less investment in either initial training and then continuous ongoing training. It also allows you to attack vehicles that you otherwise might be hesitant to attack because of the difficulty, just because it's going to tremendously improve the ease of installation factor. So ultimately what that means is you're going to see faster install times, more efficient install times, higher profit margins, and then also ultimately less spend on waste material. And then once Chris is done with the cut, we're going to go back and we're going to install this, and then we're going to see the total install time from start to finish. One thing I want to point out too with the ClearPlex Contour product, and this is why it took us so long to release it, there's two different features and benefits that you take into consideration as a film manufacturer. First is the installer features and benefits, and second is the end user features and benefits. Ultimately, the end user features and benefits are what matters the most, right? So when a customer comes to your shop looking for any type of film product or automotive aftermarket product, they're looking for something that, performs well, lasts a long time. So in the case of Contour windshield protection film, they want something that's clear, has abrasion resistance, stain resistance, longevity. Customers ultimately don't care how those products get on their car, they just want it to perform well. At the same time, a dealer wants a product that performs well for their customers, but is also something that they can integrate into their shop without causing any disruptions to their day-to-day operation. And so when we were in the R&D process with windshield protection film Contour, we wanted to improve the installation experience of the dealer without compromising what we would call end user features and benefits. And we believe we've done that with this product. It's something where you're going to see similar clarity, longevity, stain resistance, abrasion resistance that you experience with our traditional ClearPlex, but in a package where it's easier, faster, more efficient to install. And ultimately, checking boxes for both the dealer features and benefits and end user features and benefits without compromising one or the other. So what Chris is doing right now, he's doing our final trim. So we're going to be leaving a slight gap around the edge. We generally recommend a gap that's somewhere between 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch. That ensures that the film is adhering to the glass, that there's no overlap, but also that gap is minimal, so you're providing as complete coverage as possible. And right now what Chris and I are doing is we're just doing what's called a wet check. So the liner is still on the film, still on Contour. We're just seeing if there's any areas where we might have to do a second kind of final post shrink. And it looks like we have a pretty good fit here. One thing I want to point out about our heat guns, because this is really important. Both Chris and I are using heat guns that get to the temperature that I mentioned, right around 580 Celsius, But another important aspect is that they also blow a lot of air. So when you're onboarding a new dealer with Contour, it's important for you to emphasize how critical how much a heat gun that blows the correct amount of air can play in regards to the installation. With Contour being anywhere between 2 to 3 times the thickness of window tint, the heat gun that you might be able to use and get to form window tint is not necessarily the heat gun you're going to be able to use to get to conform Contour. So the heat rating you're looking for, and the rating is in a metric unit, it's cubic feet per minute. CFM is a CFM rating of between, in the low double digits, so 10, 11 through the high teens. So 10, 11 CFM up through 18 or 19 CFM. Your standard window tint heat guns usually top out at 4, 5, 6 CFM. So they get hot, but they don't blow as much heat. The amount of heat they blow plays a really critical role in getting that film, to getting a larger area of that film conforming at once. All right, so we have the cut done. We're gonna go to the install. A couple things I like to point out with the install is we're using squeegees that might be more akin to a safety security flat glass squeegee versus your standard window tint squeegee. There's some aspects about this, the adhesive and the thickness of the film that make it so if you use a squeegee that's like this 5-inch Fusion with a little stiffer blade, it allows you to get the moisture out, and so you don't leave behind excessive moisture that might cause any haze or distortion. Another thing too is when we were shrinking film side up, not liner side up, and that's why it's important to use a wet edge squeegee that has a high quality felt edge. All right, so we're gonna do a peel board method, or let's just do the 2-person.
You want to just do 2-person? So do you just want to lay it on the, we'll lay it on the hood and do our final?
Yeah. Shoot.
Lay it down.
Yeah.
Just lay it down.
So we're gonna do our final cleaning squeegee. Slip solution that we use is ideally like distilled water and just a basic baby shampoo. Then I'm gonna be also grabbing our surface prep, so I'm gonna step off screen for a second. This is essentially a high quality isopropyl alcohol mixture. We are advising that for all Madico exterior automotive installation, so that could be ClearPlex Contour, our Endurance Car Care, Protect PPF, that you use this as the last step. This just ensures, what this does is like what an isopropyl alcohol solution does. It ensures you strip the surface of any surfactants or coatings that might interfere with the adhesive and the glass. It's also in a ratio that ensures it won't cause any ghosting with the adhesive. So if you don't have this at your disposal, you can use a standard isopropyl alcohol and water mixture. And Chris, what would you say is the mixture kind of ratio you like to use?
Ideally, we use like a 10-to-1.
Okay, and is that like a 70 or a 99?
We prefer 99, but you can use 70 as well.
Okay. Where are we at time-wise right now?
10 o'clock.
Nice, okay. So we're 10 o'clock. We kicked the installation off at 9:45. And I would say that we probably could have done this maybe in half the time if we had truly gone through with no talking and just done an install extremely, just full real world. So We probably will finish this sub 20 minutes or right around 20 minutes, which with our standard, how much time would you have allocated to this vehicle?
I typically allocate anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half.
Okay. So yeah, so you're seeing time savings as much as you want me to hold and then you pull, or
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Honestly, just pull right here and then we'll just flip it right back over.
Yeah, so we're generally seeing time savings by a factor of 3 or 4, at least. So Chris mentioned an hour to an hour and a half, and we're going to be doing this in sub 20 minutes. So that's a time saving of somewhere between 3 to 4, maybe even 5, especially considering we probably could have done this a little faster had we not talked at all through it. Really important to thoroughly saturate the adhesive side of the film and the glass, because you're dealing with a big piece of film, and so the last thing you want it to do is to start tacking before you have it properly aligned. And ultimately, even after you do this process that Chris and I are doing, where it's getting the large stress areas out, you even want to be able to shift it at this point too. But looks like we have a good.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Yep. Yep. I'm good. Okay, so I'm gonna hold the film in place. So where I'm looking at right now is, I can go down just a little bit.
You have to reset?
No, because I can just trim that up. Yeah. I'm just focusing on these 2 edges that the film doesn't move. Because if the film is static as Chris is squeegeeing here, that means I know the film is staying in the same place everywhere else. So once Chris is done with his half, then I'm going to start squeegeeing. And then you might need just a little final trim.
Yeah.
All right, so Chris is done with his half. I'm going to start squeegeeing my half. Generally, you're going to want to do somewhere around 3 to 4 passes, increasing your force every subsequent pass. You always want to overlap the passes, so by at least half of your squeegee width. It's always a good idea to go in a horizontal direction and a vertical direction, so crosshatch pattern. That way you're pushing moisture out both vertically and horizontally. All right, so I've done 1, Chris has done 1. Probably going to do 2 more passes, and again, increasing the force you're using. With your last pass really being, you're putting almost as much force as you physically can. You're not going to break the glass or scratch the film as long as you're using a high quality squeegee blade. That's why before you install, it's always important to inspect your squeegee blade for any burrs. And if you do have some, we recommend that you get an entirely new squeegee blade, not try to sharpen or polish it.
Will you give me a little
Yeah.
juice?
Because the last thing you want to do is
Perfect.
put a scratch in the film by using a degraded squeegee blade. And also, after every pass, what Chris and I have been doing is looking to see if there were any contaminants that got left behind. Because if there's anything in the driver's sight line or an area that you can address, it's always easier to address after you've done fewer passes. Now, all of those things being said, And this really speaks to how you sell the product, how you set customer expectations. This is an exterior applied product. With any exterior applied products or just window films in general, the customer has to understand that it's impossible to have an installation be fully contaminant free. This contour, ultimately, the first and foremost reason why a customer should buy it is because it offers windshield protection. That's the main feature and benefit. And as a manufacturer and Chris as a dealer, we go to great lengths to ensure the quality of the film is to a level that exceeds the requirements of an end consumer. And then Chris, dealers like him, are diligent in their cleanliness of their shop, as you can see. But ultimately, you need to set the correct customer expectation. So post-install, the way that this contour should be inspected is inspected in normal lighting under a real-world condition. And so what that means is you inspect the film as you would look through your windshield. So when you get in your vehicle and you operate your vehicle, you don't look at your windshield, you look through your windshield and you scan your windshield as you're driving. You're never looking at one specific area. That's how you inspect the film. So under those conditions, if there aren't contaminants, defects noticeable, then we would consider that to be an acceptable installation. So to wrap it up, we hope that the purpose of the video ultimately was to show the fast or easy shrink feature and benefit of ClearPlex Contour. I think we were able to complete this install in sub 25 minutes, even including some of this post talk about some of the other selling factors of Contour. So we're going to continue to put out content like this to show the installs on a variety of different vehicles of varying difficulty. Hope you learned something from this. Make sure to comment and follow our Madico page to learn more not only about ClearPlex Contour, but our entire portfolio of Madico automotive products. Thank you.